untold storylines of this year will be the independent and libertarian candidates who have polled pretty high and have fought to break through so many restrictions. So what are you seeing?
Well, I think it seems like this will be a very good year, better than it has been in the past, but we're still locked in on this mentality, you know, that people will think positively on these other options, but when it gets down to the wire, they say, oh, I got to vote for the, you know, the lesser of two evils, and they end up voting that way. So we have to wait and see if there is a breakthrough, which rather disgusting. I mean, this whole idea that a good candidate that's rating well in the polls can't get in the debate, that's where the corruption really is. It's a monopoly of a one-party system. They claim it's two parties, but it's a monopoly of a one-party system, and they don't even allow a second option. And what do they do with our young people? They send them all around the world, getting involved in wars and telling other people how they have to have democratic elections. And then they have the elections, and we won't accept the people they elect. But here at home, we don't have true democracy. We have a monopoly of ideas that are controlled by leaders of two parties. And though they call it two parties, it's really a one philosophy.
The 2014 midterm elections are here, and nobody's more excited than the 0.1%ers, the big corporations, and the dark money super PACs who finally get to take a break from spending upwards of $4 billion in this election cycle. $1 billion alone have been spent on campaign attack ads. Let's take a look at the best ones.
Mitch McConnell wants you to think I'm Barack Obama.
Hi, I'm Bob. I am running for Iowa's open seat in the U.S. Senate.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm.
I'm going to use my Glock to blow your balls off.
To cut wasteful spending, repeal Obamacare, and balance the budget.
I believe in every aspect of our Constitution, which even a baby knows includes the Second Amendment.
Joni Ernst, mother, soldier, conservative.
Give me a shot. Give me a shot. Give me a shot. Let's make them squeal.
I'm not Barack Obama. I disagree with him on guns.
Joni's gonna unload.
You have nothing to fear, as we are friendly folks here at Iowa.
I'm Allison Lundergan Grimes, and I approve this message.
Pretty violent and sensationalist stuff. It's very sad to see what politics has been reduced to. Just look at the down-to-earth integrity of ads from 50 years ago.
7, 6, 6, 8, 9, 9.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
What the was that?
Suggestions on what we could or should do over the next couple of years in the event that this Republican sweep happens? Or even if it doesn't?
I think in a way today's elections teach us something. As long as we're left with Republicans and Democrats, even when we choose the lesser evil, and it's pretty clear which one that is, but even when we do that, that does not address our fundamental problems. We're a society that says we love freedom of choice. We like to go into a supermarket and have 20 varieties of toothpaste among which to choose. Well, then why are we satisfied with two parties that look so similar, that address problems in so parallel ways? We need to broaden the range of real choice we have in our elections as at least one way to open up a discussion about what's going on so we don't keep going down the same rabbit hole to a disaster that awaits us at the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant analysis. Professor Richard Wolff, it is always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for producing a program that tries to get at these issues.
Thank you, sir.
12 of the last 25 years of U.S. presidential politics have been defined by two members of one family in the White House. However, the Bush family's political legacy actually goes further back, starting with U.S. Senator Prescott Bush, father of former President George H.W. Bush, and grandfather to former President George W. Bush and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. Now, if you think the political dynasty ends there, think again. There's a new Bush in town.
I'm George P. Bush, and I'm running for Texas Land Commissioner.
Yes, you heard that right. George P. Bush, a Texas candidate expected to win the race for land commissioner by a fairly large margin. And it's no surprise. He's 38, a lawyer, a Navy vet, and half Latino, at a time when the Republican Party is struggling to turn the attention of Hispanic voters. In all, he's built for Texas politics. The post of Texas Land Commissioner is among the most powerful in the state. From this building, the commissioner oversees 9 offices, managing matters that range from mineral rights to veterans affairs. The job is also traditionally led to higher offices. So what would it mean for yet another Bush to enter American politics? Well, we came to Texas to find out.
P. Bush, already maybe don't like him already based on his name.
You know, they've served well before. They've made the state proud before. So I could certainly see where they could carry on that tradition.
I'm not sure if I'd be nuts about having another Bush president. I think maybe they should spread it around a little bit.
I don't want to judge a person by his name. So, I mean, I'd rather judge him on what he stands for.
Hopefully, people will like that name better than the Clinton name.
A continuation of the Bush brand can clearly be viewed as beneficial or harmful to Democratic principles. But how much is really riding on a name?
I think it's time for the Bush family to take a breather.
I just think it needs to be some fresh blood, and as long as you keep it within the same family, you kind of have the same outcome.
People might have a different feel on national office, but at state level, you need good candidates. You need qualified candidates, and certainly he has it in his blood.
George P. Bush may not be a familiar name, but his latest claim to fame came after signaling that his dad, former Florida governor, might be taking a stab at becoming the next Bush in the White House, creating brand new speculation over the possibility that George P. himself might follow in the footsteps of his presidential relatives. Political dynasties aren't unique to the Bush family, but with Governor Jeb Bush making more than subtle hints toward a presidential run in 2016 and son George P. dipping his toes into a long family tradition, has the White House become part of the Bush inheritance? For RT, Manuel Rapalo, Austin, Texas.
We have correspondents across the nation covering some of the biggest issues voters will be deciding. We've got you covered from California, Oregon, Texas, New York City, and Florida.
And Florida, that's where we're going to start with RT's Amira David, who is covering an issue which would legalize medical marijuana. And, you know, lots of money is going into the PR battle from both sides. Amira, any idea if that money is swaying voters?
Aaron, this is such a hot issue down here. Now, the latest we're hearing about the medical marijuana initiative is that 57% are for it, 43% are against it. That's now with 70% of the votes in, so almost there. And then, of course, you have 57%, only 3 percentage points from the 60% that's needed for this to pass. It's faring pretty well, but it just can't be called quite yet.
Amira, thanks for that. Let's turn our attention to the state of Texas, where we have RT's Manuel Rapalo, and kind of a serious issue down there as well. You're keeping tabs on a local election that would ban fracking in one town. Tell us more.
That's right, Ben. So we're looking at this. This is actually the big story that we came down to Texas to cover. And just to reiterate what you said, the polls have closed in Texas, but early voting numbers are in for the fracking ban in the city of Denton, Texas. It's a ban against new fracking sites in the city, and those numbers are 58.95% in favor of this ban against fracking, with 41% against the ban. And this is a tally of 17,000 votes. Now, this is a controversial vote, especially in Texas, given that this is oil and gas country. This is a huge industry in the state. And this isn't an outright ban on all fracking. This is a ban on new wells.
To Oregon, where the issue of GMO labeling is on the ballot. RT correspondent Alexei Yaroshevsky covering this one. So, Alexei, this would not be the first in the nation, but what would be required here?
Well, this is called Measure 92, and if it is passed, which would make Oregon the first state nationwide to do so through a public vote, then from January the 1st, 2016, all food producers would be forced to put labels on their genetically modified products. We spoke to the activists supporting this campaign here in Oregon, they voiced their genuine concerns about the food they have on the table, particularly because there are so much unknowns about the genetically modified ingredients, and particularly because the federal government is not involved in testing those genetically modified products prior to approving them, often relying on the information they receive from big chemical companies like Monsanto and DuPont.
Alexi, thank you so much. Let's go now to New York City, where RT's Marina Portnaya is standing by. Marina, you're monitoring some of these high-profile races. So can you tell us, a lot of the numbers are rolling in now. What are some of the more high-profile ones, and what's happened in the past couple hours?
Well, that's right. Republicans began celebrating a few hours ago when their party leader, Senator Mitch McConnell, was projected to win his 6th term with a estimated 55% of the vote, or at least that's what mainstream media was reporting. 72-year-old McConnell defeated his Democratic opponent, Allison Grimes. Some have criticized Grimes as damaging her own campaign and brand by refusing to publicly admit that she voted for U.S. President Barack Obama. Now, to be fair, Kentucky is among the states where President Obama is deeply unpopular. Nonetheless, this is a big win for Mitch McConnell, who is poised to become the Senate Majority Leader if his party gains the 6 Senate seats it needs.
Thank you for that, and thank you to all of our correspondents. We appreciate all of your hard work during our coverage tonight. Thanks, guys. Election fraud, though, there are, some serious, significant issues with it. Not in the way that media talks about it and politicians talk about it. We talk about IDs at voting locations, and that's all bull. We know that, but if we're sincere when we talk about it, there are issues like black box voting, electronic voting machines that could be hacked. I mean, there are significant issues that media never talks about.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I was getting to that. I said, if there's going to be voter fraud, it isn't going to come from some poor person, down the street. And it's going to come major league. It's going to come through these computerized voting machines that can be hacked. And I believe there's already been major voter fraud with those hacked computer. People need to go back like Minnesota does with the individual ballots where you fill in the circle. Look at it this way. You've been doing that since 1st grade. If you're not capable of filling in a circle, you probably shouldn't vote anyway.
Well put, Jesse. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. It's always really fun talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It's election season and time to play voter suppression. And here are your usual methods to stop the vote: voter ID, Voter Rights Act reversal, early voting, same-day registration, proof of citizenship, intimidation, disinformation, misinformation, redistricting, black box voting, ballot name removal, closed primaries, polling place closures, and your top 3 methods to suppress the vote being voter ID, early voting, and last but not least, polling place closures. Let's get started with the hottest trend for 2014, and that is the issue of requiring voters coming to the booth to present their state-issued ID before they can cast their vote. Now, you may be wondering, what's the harm in asking someone to prove who they are before they can participate in such a monumental process of American democracy? Well, the harm is this.
I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
Now, Ben and I both want to leave the viewers with some of our final thoughts tonight. So here we go. I'll start first, obviously. Now, the United States is an empire. It's without question a global superpower, a world leader, a democracy unlike any before it. Or at least we hope that it is. If you look back on the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, Chinese, Spanish, Japanese, hey, even the British, you'll find one fatal flaw in their governance, and that's the rise of loss-averse special interest groups that fuel short-term greed. Now, I know that I'm drawing pretty liberally here from world history, but let's look at a couple of examples. The Ottoman Empire's demise was rooted in a rent-seeking bureaucratic class, exerting power through a centralized government, land confiscation, anti-growth property rights, and incentives for unproductive careers such as priesthood, sunk imperial Spain. And many would argue that Rome didn't perish from too many territorial conquests, but from the debasement of its coinage. Now, in America today, we call those special interest groups super PACs. as special interests take over, income inequality grows, and income inequality leads to the end of empires.
We saw candidates this year polling as high in the Libertarian Party as 30% in a general election. It's unprecedented. And don't think for one second that the establishment in both the Republican and the Democratic parties has not noticed it and will not stand against it to fight it. Tonight, I would leave you with this. It's a famous quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Now, a lot of people debate whether or not he ever even said this, but he could be, if he did say it, speaking to us tonight when he says this. They are the 4 steps to revolution. Number 1, he says, first, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you. And then you win. In 2014, they've already ignored us. They've already laughed at us. This year, we are without question in the midst of the fight. And I remind people often, did you think it would be easy? It won't be easy. But 2014, we're in the fight.
Anything worth having isn't easy, that's for sure.
That's
Ben,
right.
Thank you so much, and thank you for watching our special coverage of this 2014 midterm elections. I'm Erin Aid.
And I'm Ben Swan. Good night. Don't forget, question more.